Welcome to Dropping at the Movies.
I'm Jose.
I'm Mike. And we've just been to see Lady Bird.
Yes.
Greta Gerwig's film.
And we've not only seen it, but we've seen it at the Everyman Cinema, which was the first time I've been there.
A word on the Everyman?
I didn't like it. I thought it was very expensive. I suppose if you're going on a date, you can get a drink and you have sofas for two, and they are very comfortable. So, you know, it's probably a great date place. But as a place to see movies, I didn't appreciate it much. I thought it was very expensive. It's twice as expensive as any other place to see movies. And the screen is small.
We were in Screen 1, which was kind of small, but I thought actually there was a sort of, I don't know, intimacy to it. I kind of liked it, but I mean, you wouldn't want to see Dunkirk there. But the price is the factor that affects everything. Like, actually, I think it's a really nice building, actually. It's really nicely kind of put together. They put loads of work into the way it looks and the way it feels. It's got a kind of sort of 50s, 60s sort of dinery kind of bar aspect to it. I think actually, I imagine when it's busy, it's probably great. But it's just too expensive. We couldn't see every film there. It's £15 a ticket, basically. You know, we'd go broke if we tried to see everything there.
I mean, that's about as much as we pay for Cineworld for the month.
Exactly.
You know, and we can see anything we want as often as we want.
But probably for special occasions, I imagine it's great.
Yeah, I'm not... Well, I suppose I'm old-fashioned, you know, like... I don't care about those things, really. So long as the film looks great, everything else to me is secondary, though I realise I'm in the minority in that, and other people will probably enjoy it very much.
No, I know what you mean. I just think like it's a slightly different thing. The projection was great. Despite the fact the screen itself was kind of small and kind of far away, the quality of the projection was fantastic.
Yes. So, no, that's true. So, anyway, horses for courses, but not for me.
Yeah.
What did you think of the film?
I was a bit shaken on it for a long time, and I started to like it a lot more towards the end. So obviously, spoilers will be coming up.
Yes.
It's a story about this girl who's 17, played by Saoirse Ronan. She's in a Catholic high school in Sacramento, in California. It sucks. She doesn't like it. She's slightly rebellious. Her family is pretty poor. Her mother works a couple of jobs. Her dad's kind of struggling for work.
But I wouldn't say pretty poor. It's like, it's on the lower end of middle class, but firmly middle class.
Right, okay. The other side of the tracks, as they say in the
Her
film.
father has an MA, and her mother's a professional psychiatric nurse.
Yeah,
so
sure. No, sure. But she does seem to be on the poorer side of everyone around her.
Sure.
Who are rather more privileged. She dreams of getting out, you know, the kind of typical teenage thing. She wants to leave. She wants to see the world. She wants to go to New York she wants to go to the East Coast, places with culture and places that are different. It's set in 2002, and so it's a kind of a hangout movie, right? It's sort of it's growing up, it's coming of age, it's being a teenager. It's similar in some ways to Call Me by Your Name. It has the same kind of feel in some respects of that kind of that experience of being a teenager that you can't recapture.
And Timothée Chalamet is in it as well.
Timothée Chalamet, yeah. He has a smaller role in this, so obviously he's not the main character. He plays a boyfriend of Christine, who calls herself Lady Bird, and there's this tension in the film of she wants to call herself Lady Bird. Her mother sometimes accepts it, sometimes doesn't. And it culminates in these beautiful letters, which you just see snatches of towards the end, where Lady Bird has been successful in applying to a college in New York. People around her have very low expectations of her, but she's on the wait list, and she manages to get in with her dad's help, with some financial aid. They're able to send her there. And her mother is incredibly conflicted about this. She's lied to her mother about it because she knows she won't approve. And also she finds out. And you see her mother writing these letters, scrunching up paper into balls and throwing them away because she's not satisfied with what she's writing. And her dad salvages them and gives them sort of surreptitiously to Lady Bird, and she discovers them in her bag when she gets to New York. And and there's these beautiful letters, and some of them she calls her Ladybird, and some of them she calls her Christine, and she's trying to get her thoughts out. I'd love to go back and freeze frame those letters, you know. I want to read all of them. I want to see what her mum says to her, because the tension, the relationship between the mother and the daughter is really central to the film. I think actually it's better than I, Tonya, and I think that Laurie Metcalf, who plays the mother in this, is more deserving of the Oscar, I think, than Alison Janney.
I don't agree. I thought she was unrecognisable, actually. I also wondered what work she'd had done, because, you know, I've known her my whole life from Roseanne, and I couldn't, if it wasn't for her voice, I wouldn't have recognised her.
Roseanne was 25 years ago, or more.
I wouldn't have recognised her, you know. And she doesn't look 25 years or more old. I kind of, yeah, I.
But with regards to how she looks, what about performance?
Which is, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's a very good performance. I mean, it was one of those things where I was just so disconcerted by Laurie Metcalf not looking like Laurie Metcalf that, you know, it was only the voice that anchored me, right? The voice is exactly the same. And so I think I was kind of, you know, mostly paying attention to that voice.
Okay.
You know, and she's clearly had a lot of work done. I mean, not in a Cher sense where, you know, everything seems reconstructed to make her look like Cher, you know, but her skin is very smooth, you know, and she just doesn't look like Laurie Metcalf. I was just very kind of distracted, really.
Okay.
So, I mean, to me, the film is the greatest disappointment of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, or because it has been so hyped, right? It's been nominated for Oscars and so on, and I think it's a very likable film. It's a very endearing film.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like a little film, right? It's kind of, you know, it's something that, you know, it's a small indie film that in normal years, you know, would have kind of got a few fans at some festival or something, and then kind of been released on Netflix and so on. But, you know, kind of this is one of the must-see films of the year, and I don't think it lives up to that billing.
Well, is that its fault? I mean, it can't be responsible for its own hype.
Okay, you're right, but so I'm just describing.
But I appreciate what you mean. I agree to an extent. Although I found it more disappointing towards the start when I thought, oh, is this kind of it? But actually, it grew on me quite a lot.
Yes.
And by the end, I was with it.
Well, I wasn't, and so what I liked was the performances of the three teenagers.
Which three? There's quite a few in it.
The
Saoirse
Ronan, the young boy who plays the gay boy, who was also in Manchester by the Sea, and Three Billboards. Right, so he's having quite a year, just like Timothée Chalamet, actually.
I think it's Lucas Hedges.
That's right. So, you know, I loved those three performances. I thought they were wonderful. And I liked the whole mother-daughter dynamic, and, you know, I did like the world presented and so on. It's just, visually the film is a nothing, right?
Oh, I don't agree with that.
Oh, well, explain then.
Well, I don't think it's hugely special, but I think it's visually it has a real sense of style and clarity.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Okay.
I mean, I thought it was shot like a cheap TV movie, basically. Like, you know, everything is in close up or near it, or in two shot. You know, the camera wasn't expressive at all. You know, the setting and clothes were descriptive. It's a way of indicating that, you know, these are where these people are from, and they're, you know, but kind of, you know, nothing else. You know, it's a writer's film, and I think, you know, as a writer's film, it's quite good. And what I love most about it, and what is most unusual, and I think why it's been praised as much as it has, is that the focus of the story is a mother-daughter relationship done by a woman, you know. And that is deserving of praise, and it is certainly unusual, right? So it's something that that I would like people to see, right? It's kind of, it is kind of voices that are not often heard or seen in cinema. So all of that I would agree with. But I think the film has been overhyped.
Yeah, that's true. But I think let's not bang on about the hype, because I think that's external. That's kind of a distraction. Like,
well, true. Okay, but we are kind of in a way discussing I suppose the film's merits, and one of the things that we want with it is, what I would like is to get people to see it, but to get people to see it with more realistic expectations.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I like. I think thinking about it visually, like, I'm not sure that I want a film like this to be kind of screaming with the camera of like about using the camera to express so much. Like, sometimes it's I want to be able to, well, like I say, it's a hangout movie. I want to be able to hang out with the characters in a film like this, and I think actually it's possible for direction to get in the way of that sometimes if you're overusing the camera. If you see what I mean. Like,
well, I do see what you mean, but on the other hand,
having a two-shot, having things just kind of staged quite simply, allows other things to express it. Allows the writing to express itself, as you suggest. I think the editing is really good. Actually, this is something I was thinking about during the film. That it doesn't actually it doesn't draw attention to itself too much. But there are these kind of montages. I think montages would be drawing attention to themselves if they had music underneath. But they don't, so it's just like they're more kind of scene-setting montages of like life at school or during the play, where it's shots kind of quite quickly following one after another. There's a real snappiness to the editing. I think actually it's really brilliantly edited.
Okay.
To give you a sense of pace and place.
Yes. I don't know. I was disappointed. I was disappointed with the school thing. Like it's set in a kind of a Catholic private school, which the parents can barely afford. There's the usual stuff with the nuns, but and the priests. But I've seen more humor kind of in other films. Haley Mills, The Trouble with Angels, or things like that. I mean, there's a whole tradition of them. That didn't particularly strike me. I thought some things could have been rendered more complex and more poetic. Really, her first sexual experience, which some people wouldn't describe as one. So there's the whole thing about she thinks that the object of her affections is a virgin, and he turns out not to be, and her whole idea is that they're going to lose their virginity at the same time. But A, he comes too quickly, and B, she's not the first. And you also get the sense that there's no penetration or anything like that. So, there's a whole thing about how you describe,
Did you get a sense of that? I thought that was quite clear.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood.
Maybe. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that seems to be sort of the point. Like, you get a moment, obviously you don't see anything, it's all under the covers and everything. There's this kind of moment of pause when it happens, then like 4 seconds later he comes.
Okay. Well, I missed that. You see.
Yeah.
So that
blink and you miss it.
Well, blink and you miss it.
Because that's why it was then a big deal. Like, this was her losing her virginity.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think in a way it's a film that's kind of politically correct in the sense that the focus is on the mother-daughter relationship. The focus is also on relationships amongst women, right? So she ends up going to her prom with a girl. Her first boyfriend is gay, but she doesn't rat him out, and they end up being good friends. It's kind of like all the things that you'd like it to be, but really, it has no poetry.
I think it's possible to look at it like that. I think it's possible to look at it that way, but actually, I think it's interesting to me because it's kind of a female perspective on tropes that you often see portrayed as male things in films like this.
Yes.
Losing your virginity and going to the prom. These are done from the guy's perspective, and they're very often just about sex, and sex equals growing up. And sex in this is kind of, it's important to her to sort of, it's important to her to get it right to an extent, but actually I think when she loses her virginity and then she's upset because she feels she's been lied to, that she wasn't the first. She's not upset about the sex being rubbish. It's not important to her in that way. It's not as important to her in that way, at least at that moment. Going to the prom with her friend is like, it's not about sort of making a kind of feminist case. It's because she's ditching the guys who she realizes are really not the people she wants to be with. She wants to go back to, you know, her best friend is a girl that she's very tight with at the start of the film, and she drifts away from, and that's about, you know, coming back to realizing who really matters to her. I think kind of. So I really like that kind of. It does feel original to me like that. Maybe I haven't seen enough teen movies. Maybe I haven't seen enough feminist movies. But kind of, it felt original to me in the way it was just shifting the perspective in this sort of coming of age teen movie.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I was underwhelmed.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it. You know, I in fact I quite liked it, and I thought the young performers were wonderful. But I was quite underwhelmed.
I'll tell you what else I like thinking about it is, so her first boyfriend, the what was his name again, Lucas Hedges, turns out to be gay. So she's going out with him, and they don't do anything. There's this thing where they're a bit where they're lying in a meadow in a field, and it's quite romantic. And they're under the stars, very romantic actually. And she says, "You can touch my boobs if you want." And he says, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I've got too much respect for you." Which actually, like, to me, that's not a point that he's gay. Like, that's a point really that he's just scared of women. I don't think it's like he may not be sort of kind of concrete in his head at that point that he's gay. It's just kind of he's growing up too.
I thought when I saw that, I thought, what weird American religious shit is this?
Oh yeah, there's a bit of that as well. But then then in a party, they go into the men's loos because the girls' loos has got a huge queue. And they bust into a cubicle, and he's in there making out with a guy. Oh my God, and it kind of, it's crazy. And she's upset with him, and she stops coming to the play, and she doesn't want to see him anymore. And then she happens to see him a little bit later, and he's terrified of his parents finding out. I think. He's terrified of Dad finding out that he's gay, and he wants to apologise to her, and she's initially reluctant to accept his apology and to speak to him, but then she comforts him. She takes him in her arms, and so actually
that was very sweet.
I don't think I've really seen that before.
That was very sweet. I think I have. I couldn't point to it, but the trope of having like a young heterosexual girl and a gay best friend is
sure, but
unusual.
it was that thing of forgiveness, like she can forgive him for
having let her on.
Right, exactly.
No, I get that, and I like that very much. And I mean, there are many things that in a way that I liked in a quite a low key way. I love the relationship with the father.
Yeah.
I love that the father gets unemployed, and then his 22-year-old son or whatever gets a job over him at the same company.
Yeah.
Right. It's got a lot of deft touches. But I do think that they're mostly kind of on, from the perspective of writing, and I do think that there are other dimensions of cinema that the film doesn't even know to aspire to.
That may be the case. What do you make of the ending?
I thought it dragged on for too long. I wish it would have ended at the airport with the mother, and then she ends up in New York, and then she finds the letters, and, it seems to go on for quite a lot longer than I thought it would.
I like the ending quite a lot, because I thought when she goes off to New York, that was going to be the ending, and it felt like an ending, and it felt like this thing of, again, that felt like something I would have seen before, sort of, they finally get out of where they were, and there's a whole bright new future ahead of them, because they've achieved their dream. But then the film goes on for a little bit and says, well, this is what life in New York is actually like, and she has experiences which are unsatisfactory, so she has an experience at a party which mirrors quite a few things that you've seen in the film already that happened in Sacramento, where she wasn't happy with her life. But there's this kind of, actually it makes you realise that life back then was kind of romantic. When people stole kisses from each other, it was reciprocated and it was wanted, whereas in here it's a drunk guy at a party who doesn't relate to her at all. He says, "Where are you from?" She says Sacramento. He says, "Where's that?" And she goes, San Francisco, which earlier in the film there's been this thing of Sacramento is not San Francisco.
Yes.
But in New York it doesn't matter to this guy.
Yes.
She gets drunk, she ends up in hospital, and so and I really like that, like this kind of, oh, okay, so it's not quite what I thought it would be. And then she ends up with this apologetic, conciliatory phone call to her mother.
Yes. That phone call I liked.
Which is the very, very end of the film.
That's right. But, I just wish it would have come earlier.
It's only an hour and a half long, the film. Did it feel long to you?
It did. I mean, having now seen the film, I think it's gotten so much praise. It's nominated for an Academy Award. Has it been nominated for Best Film?
It's nominated for one or two. Yes, it's nominated for Best Film.
Yeah, I don't think it deserves it.
No.
I mean, I think it's a very minor film. I think it's a film that, in another all the things that you say are great are great. It's great to have a female director on a mother-daughter relationship.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, I'll say that. Okay.
Everyone else has said that.
On a mother-daughter relationship, and, all from the girl's point of view, on this high school period and this quest for identity and this finding of sexuality and so on. I mean, there's nothing that I really dislike about it. But I just don't think it's good enough. I mean, I think it's a first work, by a young female director that has benefited from all the Me Too movement, the revelations about the disparities in salaries, the embarrassment of the Academy for not having more female filmmakers, but if you look at something like Detroit, and you just look at, what Catherine Bigelow does there, which is just, such a great use of the medium, and then you compare it to this feels like a very minor work, and that's.
So let's look at the Oscars that it is nominated for. So it's nominated for Best Picture. I think we're both in agreement that it's not deserving of Best Picture. But having said that, it's I'd say it's as deserving of a nomination, if not more so, than some of the other nominees.
Well,
looking at The Post or Get Out or certainly Darkest Hour, I think it ranks. I think it's fair to place it alongside those.
I wouldn't. I mean, I think,
I think it's worse than Darkest Hour.
I do, though, I'm no fan of Darkest Hour, but at least there was kind of an attempt to kind of create a look with it, and to be expressive with that look. And, I do think that the interrelationship between Gary Oldman and Kristen Scott Thomas was wonderful. So, I also think it's a minor film undeserving of an Academy Award, but I do actually think that, this is fresher and more interesting. Lady Bird is fresher and more interesting than The Darkest Hour. But I just think The Darkest Hour is a more accomplished film.
Okay. I don't think it just comes down to sort of the look. I understand your reticence to praise it for anything along those lines, but there's a kind of deftness of touch and lightness and a control of tone in this film, which I think you're being a little unfair to.
No, I would grant you that. I would agree with that. I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because, you're seeing like Woody Allen's films, which are much more deft with tone and so on, and kind of, and imaginative and kind of experimenting with form and whatever. And they're being decried as, he always does the same thing and it's of no value whatsoever. And then you have a really basic film that is distinguished by some fresh writing and some very good performances. That's I would say that's its only claim to achievements, and that is being kind of praised to the skies. So my feeling would be, well, congratulations, Greta Gerwig, but you better learn some more before you do your next film.
Let's quickly go through the other four nominations it has. So Best Director, Greta Gerwig's nominated alongside Christopher Nolan, Jordan Peele, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Guillermo del Toro.
I think.
I think there are omissions from that list. Frankly, that are quite.
Denis Villeneuve,
Yeah.
And Catherine Bigelow.
Best Actress nomination for Saoirse Ronan as Lady Bird.
Oh, she deserves it.
You think she deserves the nomination or the award?
I think she deserves the nomination.
Yeah. She is great. I had trouble with her at the start because I thought she just looks 25 years old.
Yes.
Which is normally not a problem for me. Like every film about teenagers, everyone is 25 years old or above playing
Except
kids.
that the young boys do look like 17 or 18, and she does look slightly older.
She looks...
Not much older.
But then, I kind of...
She won me over.
I got into... Yes, exactly. I got into that. What else is there? Best Supporting Actress, Laurie Metcalf as Lady Bird. You've already expressed your disappointment that she doesn't look like herself.
Yes, and in any case, I would say Leslie Manville or the actress's name from I, Tonya.
Alison Janney.
Yeah, deserve it much more.
Best Original Screenplay.
I think that deserves a nomination, yes.
It's nominated alongside The Big Sick, Get Out, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards.
I think it deserves to be there.
You think it deserves to win?
No.
So, a disappointment for you.
Yes. I mean, I would urge people to see it. I do think it's kind of... It's a lovely, gentle, original voice in the cinema, and it's worth seeing for that reason. But I think you'll enjoy it more if you don't go in with any unreasonable expectations.
Yeah, sure. The hype does appear to have played a part with you.
It does. I'm afraid so. And actually, I haven't read any reviews or anything about it.
No,
it's just,
nor do I.
like...
I mean, I suppose
it seeps into you, I guess.
The hype that I think we probably both experienced was of the awards. Kind of people saying, "Oh, it's great that it's nominated for such awards and it should be winning this and the other." In fact, particularly at the Golden Globes, people were saying, "Why is it nominated here and not here?"
Yes.
I can't remember exactly what it was. Was it? I think maybe it was nominated for Best Picture, but she wasn't. Greta Gerwig wasn't nominated for Best Director. I think.
I don't know.
Something like that. People were making quite a fuss about it.
I think there's an issue of screeners in these nominations, right? Because what happens is people get the screener, they see it on a TV or on a laptop, and actually, seeing it like that really does privilege the screenplay and dialogue, and movies that are filmed in close-ups to medium close-ups with, very sparse use of long shots. And actually, this is just that kind of movie.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I think it's unfair to suggest it's being shot televisually. I think it is cinematic.
How so? Why do you say that?
Well, it feels right on a cinema screen. I don't know how else to put it. It would be perfectly watchable on TV, and that would privilege the writing. But it did feel like... It felt like being kind of invited into the world of Sacramento and the world of Lady Bird, sort of viscerally. And like I said, that's not it's not down to a hugely expressive camera or anything like that, but there are certain... There's a certain care.
Expressive. It's almost inexpressive.
There's a certain care that's been taken, though, I think, with the construction of the images. Whether you think they're expressive or not is one thing, but I think they're quite deliberate. I think the care's been taken over them.
I think care has been taken with the performances and with the dialogue, and it's one of those films in which all the rest of the audiovisual means is just a way of capturing that performance and that dialogue, rather than adding a layer of expression.
Well, like I say, I think it sits alongside something like Dazed and Confused as a kind of... which I think is equally kind of unexpressive, really. It's, I found more so, but people have no problem with that as a kind of classic teenage hangout movie.
It's about 25 years since I've seen it, so I can't comment.
No, sure. But I think it's sort of it's comparable to something like that. I don't think it's...
Okay, I'll look at it. It's on Movie at the moment, so...
Is it?
Yeah, so I might look at it later tonight.
You love Movie.
I love Movie.
All right, so
final verdict.
Well, final verdict for me, I actually really enjoyed it after a little while. I got into it, and I think it has some twists on teen movies of this nature that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed it in some respects more than Call Me by Your Name, which made me hate children. I kind of felt like I understood the characters, and I think the family relationships are interesting and well portrayed, and I think you're absolutely right to say that a lot of that comes down to the writing. Most of that comes down to the writing and performance, but I don't think that's a huge problem necessarily. I don't think every film has to be screaming expression with the camera.
Yes, I do. Okay, well, I would still urge you to see it if you've got a chance, actually.
I think in a film like this, the director can actually get in the way of the film sometimes.
Could possibly. Anyway, she hasn't gotten in the way of her own screenplay. I nonetheless think that this is a film that wouldn't lose very much by being seen on TV.
That's certainly true.
So, we urge you to see it, but if you don't see it at the cinema, it'll crop up soon on Netflix or the like.
Fair enough, I suppose.
All right.